recording. Yeah,
All right.
all
All righty. Well, welcome everyone. It is 7:03 PM on Wednesday, November 6th, and I would like to call the regularly scheduled November meeting of the New Canaan Parking Commission to order. So with that said, what I want to also do at the beginning of this meeting is to add a motion to the published agenda that you received earlier. And that is to add an item, which is a discussion about our annual recommendations to the Board of Selectmen and Planning and Zoning. That is the recommendations of the New Canaan Parking Commission for the Board of Selectmen and P and Z in their annual planning. So we're going to put that in as item number 4 after the parking survey discussion. And do I have a motion?
Yes, I'll make a motion to add that to the agenda.
Great.
Second.
Okay, super.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All righty. Great. Well, it's nice to see all of you. And we also need a motion to approve the minutes from the September 4th meeting. Do I have a motion?
I can make a motion to approve the minutes.
Kevin, and second by Marley, and all approved?
Approved.
Yeah. Great. Terrific. And Stacy, why don't you give us an update on where we are with the commuter permits, please?
So we are finished with all the renewals. I just wanted to update you because at the last meeting, you all implemented late fees for everybody who did not renew by September 3rd. We had about 138 permits that were renewed late, majority of them in September. Most of the people were very happy that they did not lose their permits and were very happy that a late fee was implemented instead of losing their permits. I did have a little bit of a pushback from a few people, but in the end, they realized that they had to do it, and so they renewed like they were supposed
Pushback on
to.
the late fee.
On the late fee, yeah. It did generate a little bit of extra revenue for the permits, approximately $68.50 from those. So, but moving forward, I think next renewal period will start a little bit earlier, and we'll discuss possibly maybe changing to a later start date, so people are not away. Definitely
Yeah.
adding email notifications, text messages, online renewals, a whole bunch of things. So, and I promised everyone that I was speaking to that we will get this under control the next time. But I thank you all for doing this time so we can get everybody renewed, and we are all set for this renewal period.
Wonderful. Great. Okay. So then let's talk about the parking survey. That was very interesting.
So I'll just give you a little bit of background on the survey. Every year, we have the luxury of having senior high school interns as part of the senior internship program. And we use them a lot this summer on the just parking in general. They went out and did sort of very back of the envelope counts of the lots every day. We were just curious as to what light usability was, how much availability there was. So they would go out at the same time every day and come back to us and say, well, there are about 20 spots open in this lot. And so it gave us a little bit of that information. And then we asked them to work on a survey with us. We had, for all transparency, we got the survey basically from someone had seen it. Doug Stewart, I think, had sent it to us. He saw somebody had done it in Greenwich. We took that survey when we kind of adapted it for our needs, and it went out to how many people in your through this? All of yours.
I think something.
That's
851
response, but I
I think it was like well over 3,500 for you.
Yeah, something
then
like
Laura-
that.
So it went to all the commuters?
It went to
Anybody had a permit.
permit, yeah, and it went to all the commuters on my end, but I think we also,
We did a press
Press
release.
release.
We put it in the newsletter. Laura
Um,
sent it out as part of the chamber because we wanted people that worked in town, right? So we wanted
right, so that
businesses.
included, yeah, we did it for waitlist people, anyone we had email addresses for, we
Yeah.
tried to,
Yeah.
get them.
And
Wow.
851 actually responses you know, that's a
very
great
good,
enough.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's
that's
enough
like
to draw
30%.
some.
Yeah,
couple
yeah.
of conclusions,
Mhm.
so. I don't know how you guys want to do it, if you just want to go through, one of the things that I did, took me a while, SurveyMonkey is so user unfriendly in my opinion. And
Mhm.
I've been having to learn it as we go, but what I did today, because I have to basically create an Excel file and pull all these, the other
Comments,
responses
yeah.
off. So I think you sent them to everybody.
Yes,
But I know
yes,
it's late, I know
yes,
people
it
didn't have a
was-
chance to look at
Look
them.
at them, yeah.
So maybe what we'll do today is just go over the questions, the general, you know, what we can see with the basic results. We don't have to go through the others. We can talk about this again in December. The only reason why we really wanted to keep it on the agenda tonight is, Deanna has been holding off. A lot of people have been asking for the results, and Deanna does a monthly newsletter. And this is going to be, and this was one of the features, the results basically is a feature of the November newsletter. But she felt strongly that the commission should get the results first before it comes out. So I think we should just go over sort of question by question and draw some conclusions. And if, you know, we want to come back to it at the next meeting, that makes perfect sense as well. So, you want to
You want
start?
me? Sure. So, question one, mostly as everybody sees, residents, were the majority of the people that took the survey. That we had, what came in second, we had the, non-resident visitor, and then other, which you can see was the attachment that I sent out today, and that, probably, we kind of knew that mostly residents would be taking the survey.
And of the others, I'm looking at them now, I think a majority of them are still residents, they just decided to add a caveat, like I'm a resident, but I'm also a realtor, I'm a resident, but commercial property owner. I'm a homeowner, but rent my home, you know, so I think they were still residents, if you just could say one thing, but, yeah, so large contingent of residents who filled out the survey or participated.
The second question, typical week, how many days do you park downtown, in New Canaan? And again, 2 to 4 seem to be, the majority, you know, when people come. Then once a week, and then 5 days plus was the last.
I was happy with the 2 to 4 days.
Yeah.
People coming to town.
Question 3, question 3, where do you typically park in downtown New Canaan? This, Elm Street, this was kind of what we thought was going to be the #1 area. Nothing unusual there. Then where they go afterward would be Morse Court. Again, it was pretty predictable. Then Main Street, and then some of the other lots. Other, which I also did not get a
Other,
chance to look
Yeah,
at.
there's a lot of Cherry
Three.
Street,
There's
a lot of Pine Street,
library,
Library,
forest.
Phoenix, St. John's,
Basically free parking.
Yes,
Free.
yeah, yeah.
mhm.
For the ranking of why you come to town on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being the most frequent, 4 being the least. Most frequent, shop. Then it went to dine, service, if they were coming for a haircut, dentist appointment, doctor appointment, and then last, work.
That dime,
Um,
almost as high as
A
shop,
I know,
is surprising.
right?
Yep.
And remember the time of year that we did this, right? It was the nice months when people probably their frame of reference, if they were eating out, it probably would have been a different response had we
For sure.
done it in February.
Yeah, and I wonder how different that would be.
But you know what,
If
I
you
think
take
it
away
would probably be the
outdoor.
same because I think people shop less in February too. So I think it would still look the same. The numbers wouldn't be as big, but it might look the same on a graph.
Mhm.
So I think both would have been ratcheted back a bit. Work hopefully would stay steady. But I think the shop and dine, I don't know, it's kind of interesting.
With question number 5, what factors are most important in deciding where you park? Rank the following factors on a scale from 1 to 6. As far as I'm concerned, the proximity as being #1 was pretty consistent with what I figured, what I've seen, what I've heard over the years. People want to try to park as close to where they're going to as possible. Then free, next would be natural. And then,
The problem.
the
with this question,
duration
yeah.
and cost, that was a little,
You know what the problem with that question, now that I think about it, was, and someone mentioned this in their comments, the cost is also free.
Right.
You know, so we should have said paid.
right,
Versus cost,
Cost.
because some people would say, yeah, if it costs something, I'm going
but
for
for the
free.
free. So, and that was kind of like close with the duration of the planned visit, then size of the parking space, which I hope at least in Morse Court, we corrected that.
Mhm.
And then, accessibility for persons, I guess, with disabilities was supposed to be.
Do you think, maybe elderly are included in that also? Cause I think
Oh,
that's.
yeah,
You know,
yeah,
right,
in-
even
in
if
the-
they don't have a disability.
Yeah, oh,
Right.
yeah,
You know,
yeah,
Accessibility,
Those
yeah.
people wanna.
So we didn't ask for
Not
age
walk
breaks,
far.
right?
Nope.
no, but what question 6 in my mind, and I'll give you a little bit more insight into this. Kind of to me gives me an age bracket of who took the
Mm.
survey.
Okay.
And I had mentioned this earlier. When parking in New Canaan metered lots, do you use the pay by phone parking app? And most people answered the question, no, I use the parking machines.
Mhm.
Now, the enforcement officers, what I see in the back office as far as payments go, what I see in billing, the app is most utilized, okay, over the machines. So what, to me, that kind of
Oh, I see.
indicated a little bit more to me,
An older
that
student.
maybe it was an older scale of people taking the survey as opposed to the young kids or even the employees who like to use the app a lot more.
Any interesting
But-
comments on that one?
There were no comments.
For that one, okay.
Right. You guys, you have both
So-
have the survey, you don't need me to share a screen, right? You're both looking at it, Kevin and Marley?
Yeah,
So to me, that, and I reached out, I was speaking to the officer today just to confirm it, that he sees like a lot of people walk up to the machines and not go to the machines, but look at the sign on how to do it by the app. So to me, I still believe that the app is more utilized than what we were showing.
Well,
on-
it's pretty close. I mean, you're
Yeah.
talking about 4% exactly, so.
But
But-
we did, when we talked about this initially, we did think that we, you know, in terms of action items, that we can definitely do more in the way of educating people
Yep,
on using
I'm
the app.
using the apps.
Once
Yep.
people have the app down and have it
They
on their
use
phone, they use it and they love it. It's one less step. They don't have to know what parking space they're in, you know, that kind of thing. I mean, they can do it right there.
Right.
So, you know, we could do a better job of teaching them how to use it or encouraging them to use it.
Mhm.
Well, depending on which lot, some of them you do have to know which spot.
You don't know which spot, but you don't, so many times people walk over to the machine to pay and they're like, I forgot which spot.
Right, I know.
I was at
Right, yeah.
before, you know, if
Yeah.
you're standing right there, I think that's the case. And the
Yeah.
nice thing about the app, as Greg, Riley and I were talking about this for the newsletter, is that if you are out to lunch or running an errand and you want to stay longer, you can
Just
add more
extend your
time.
time.
If
Yeah.
you didn't, you have to run up to the machine and it does max you out because we don't want people staying there all day.
How
Well,
long?
this is something, actually, this brings up a really, really good point, and it's something that has to do with like the next two questions of the survey, and then I didn't know if this fell into the like, for the, you know, Board of Selectmen meeting, but is, in specifically in, Park Street and Playhouse, you used to be able to choose like 30 minutes, 1 hour, 3 hours, or whatever it was, and now it's just, I have to pay $4 for like 3 or 4 hours, even if I'm going for 15 minutes. And that's, I've heard a lot about that.
No,
No, no.
Mhm.
No.
I can
It
tell you.
happened with the credit card max, the credit card an hour, okay? But if you're using coins, you can do 15 minutes, 30 minutes. If you use a credit card, it's going to do a max of an hour for
No, a
$1.25.
minimum.
A minimum, excuse me, a minimum of an hour of $1.25. So the
I'm
credit card.
talking, no, I'm not talking about the machine. I'm talking about on the app. You cannot choose anything below $4 anymore on the app.
In Park Street or Playhouse, the 3-hour
both.
spaces?
That's where I park all the time, and now I have to pay $4 to park there, even if I'm just like running to get a Dunkin' or something.
We have to check that.
I'm gonna have to check
Yeah,
that.
so I was,
Nobody has
Expensive
said,
coffee.
yeah, nobody has come back to me.
And it's
you
not supposed
you
to
are
be
the
that
first,
way.
right, you are the first person that has brought that to my attention. I will.
A few people have asked me about it, and I mean, that's where I park most of the time, so I'm always like, oh, that's a
And we're
lot.
not
So like,
talking about the 6-hour flat rate
No.
spaces,
Oh,
right?
you can't see it, it's blurry.
No.
yeah, I don't know if you can
tell that
see
to
my,
me.
I don't know if you can see my screen at all, but so I just put in like Playhouse lot. It says enter length of stay, 1 hour, $4, 2 hour, $4. And even if I click 1 hour, it says expires today at midnight, same cost as 1 hour. So it's $4 plus a
Playhouse.
service charge of 50
That's
cents
the
at the
Playhouse,
Playhouse.
that's the ones on the berm.
Are
Those
you
the
sure you're
ones
not,
on-
yeah, the ones
Yeah.
on the berm, the
Those
ones
are the
at
long-term
127,
parking
those are long-term parking spots, those are 6-hour
So,
spots.
right,
Yeah,
110 to 127 is a flat rate fee,
what's the
6-hour
number?
spot.
30.
I just put in, oh, well, whatever other number I usually park in. Anyway, that's been happening to me
I'll
in-
definitely
in
check that
I'm
out.
on
for
in
you.
Playhouse. So if, yeah, if you could check that, because it's,
Yeah. Park
it
Street-
seems like antithema to all of this, like more 50, more shorter parking spaces.
You should be able to pay
To have
15.
people paying
Yeah.
like $4 if you're there for,
No, correct.
But in the Park
Especially-
Street lot, I just randomly entered, spot number 36, and it's telling me I can length of stay, 30 minutes, 85 cents.
Oh.
okay.
Yeah, so,
I'll look into.
there are a series of those spaces along the berm that are long-term, so they're for that amount of
Right.
time, so. it
Yep.
could
and
be
that signage could be better. to be
So,
honest.
yeah, maybe that's a signage problem because mostly I park in Playhouse. And it's never occurred to me that any of those spots would be different from any of the
Yeah,
others.
yeah, the ones along the, what I call the
Adjacent
berm.
to the Park Street
Yes.
lot, yeah.
Yeah,
They're 110 through 127, space number is 110.
okay.
Not, I mean, Park Street is
Not
not
Park
that
Street.
way.
All the other spaces in Playhouse will work like Park Street.
The
You can pay
interior
for,
is right.
Okay, we must be parking, the two people who mentioned it to me, we all must be parking in the same spots.
Yeah.
Okay,
It's funny, those spots used to, it's interesting
fill up.
because those spots used to be the first ones, before we
Take
did
Right,
the business spots, the free employee spots. Those spots were taken every day, like by 7:30 in the morning, because all the employees would park there. So it's interesting now that they've
That they're
opened
available.
up, because there never used to be a spot there. But now that we've got everyone parking and remotely for free.
yeah. And those are like the best ones because you can just like nip down the stairs and be in the middle of town, right? So it's like easy to do quick stuff in Playhouse versus like Park Street, I think.
There's the other staircase down from, yeah, you know that, from Park Street too.
Near the buff, you mean? Yeah.
Yes, exactly, yeah. Okay, so questions out, that was question 6, but I'm glad you brought that up, because I
Yeah.
need to go look at that.
I will absolutely.
Signage.
7, to what degree does parking availability affect the amount of time you spend in the downtown area? So, very much, somewhat, and not at all. And then the
And
other,
again, the others were
others.
just, others were more commentary, spaces are too small for big cars.
right.
I can never find a spot in downtown again, depends on what I need to do. I
What were
walk,
you trying to determine from this question?
like, do people sit at home and go, I'm not going downtown because I can't find a space, because we
Right.
hear that a lot from, we hear that a
Well,
lot.
that's-
So it's like, do we even head into town because
Right.
of what we perceive?
And is it a perceived parking issue? And that's why we
80%.
use the kids this summer, the high
I see,
school.
because it says, to what degree does parking availability affect the amount of time you spend in the okay.
Whether you come at all or,
Okay, whether you come at all.
yeah.
I thought this meant how long you spend, and that's
Well,
why I didn't
Well, because
Right.
if you
understand.
thought you
Like
were just
the
running for
frequency.
2 hours,
Yeah.
you would park on Elm because it's 2 hours. So if I know I'm just running in and out, I'm gonna go for Elm. But if I'm gonna go have lunch and run an errand, then I'm gonna park. So the amount of time I'm gonna spend there might determine that availability part.
Mhm. Normally you do these questions on a 5-point scale. So I don't know, I mean,
Yeah, I mean, listen, this was
Yeah.
a primitive version of the survey. We're not.
yeah,
Well,
Um,
it's good because you learn
right,
by
Yeah.
refining it. And then
Yeah.
you do it and
Yeah.
then say, okay, you know what, the
Right.
next time,
Right.
let's refine it this way. But it's good to sort of do this as a practice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just
And then it might start an open dialogue, or
Right.
maybe we do it every year or
You can
something.
base any huge decisions on any of this, but it could help, you understand where people are, they come
Yeah.
from. I wasn't surprised by any, I could have predicted that
nothing.
mostly we were gonna see what we saw.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although interesting that 32% on question 8 will drive around,
I know.
Oh,
to find another
yes,
on-street
yeah,
spot.
yeah, instead
versus
of going into a
parking.
parking lot.
Yes.
You know what,
Absolutely.
I will, as someone who does that, I will say, it's a habit of having lived in New Canaan for a long time, because, it used to be if you drove up Elm Street and you didn't find a spot, you'd go around a second time, usually did on the same, you rarely had to go with it, but
Yeah.
that's how it used to be.
Right.
And so that's old habits die hard.
And there were a lot of responses. There were 88 responses on the others, and you guys can look at them later, but. Again, there was some driving around, there was parking on, they would just find another lot. Cherry Street got a lot of action,
Yeah.
more support, yeah,
And then anecdotally, I'm surprised I didn't see Vertus, because I've heard that there's a lot of
there was first
parking
mentioned a couple
stuff going
times.
on Vertus, that in the private lots. that,
Yes, a couple people mentioned
Yeah,
that,
yeah,
that they park in the,
At Chase Lot,
it's
and
a-
then I get called.
Yeah.
and the
yeah.
empty one.
And yeah, where the laundromat was.
Yes, yes, someone
Oh,
wrote
is
that
that
in
one
there.
not there anymore?
It
No, the
is,
laundromat
no,
there,
but
but next
it's-
door to
Everyone else
it.
is
Right,
right there.
But there's the who owns it, the Cuda, who has a little salon right in the middle. People
Yes.
are parking there, and that's an issue.
Someone did write that in here that they park there.
Yeah. But they're not supposed to, it's private property.
Exactly. Exactly.
People, a lot of people said Cherry Street, I just find there are spots available.
Right,
On Cherry Street.
Yep.
Yeah,
All up
I
and down
rarely
it,
park
right
on
down
Cherry
through Sub
Street.
Sandwich, all there, on the street.
do you guys want
This
to work
this really stuns
Yes.
me though, question 9, that they don't want to, add 15-minute spots.
You know what, I
Yes.
think that's something that needs to be sold a little bit.
Mhm.
I think people don't see the
Well-
value, because to be honest, the first time I heard it, I was like, whether it's 15 or 30, but just the short term, I thought, oh
Well, I
no, we
think
don't have enough time already.
Right.
But then when you realize that it actually
When
gives
you
a
look
lot
at-
of turnover.
When you look at the responses, a lot of it was fine, but it better be enforced. There was a lot of that.
Right,
How would you
yeah.
enforce it? How would you do
Right.
it? And people were saying 30. People saying maybe a few, but don't go crazy.
I would say call it 15, but enforce 30.
Because everyone's saying, what can you do with 15? You think you're 15 and then you're 20 and you get a ticket. Now
Yeah.
You have to, you have to do
you know.
either or. If
But
you
the
were
good
to
thing
do
about
that.
those is I think you're gonna prevent people who know they're gonna be more than a half an hour, or they're going to lunch or something, they're not going to.
Well, I
Perfect.
guess, if you think about the fact that here you've got 6% of the people are coming to shop and dine. And then asking that question,
That's
then
true.
that
Probably
makes sense
true,
that they
too.
do not want to
Mm.
give up some of those spots for 15 minutes.
Right.
But, what we don't have is any information saying that, the price of the parking could ostensibly go up on Elm Street, I mean, we didn't ask that question, right? About would you park for free up on Park Street and Playhouse, right? And Morse Court or whatever,
And pay
versus,
for Elm,
and pay for Elm.
which means
That's
you
really
could
the
pay for
question.
15 minutes on Elm. It could be paid 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Right.
So if you put paid on Elm Street, it could be 15, it could be 2 hours. You just pay for it. So that's what one of the questions we were trying to.
But I wouldn't want
Was it
15
cost?
into 2
Yeah,
hours.
I thought we.
Because then they're just gonna be.
I thought we had talked
Right.
about having some of the parking, the 15-minute spots being free.
Yes.
If it's right on Elm Street, and then having the paid 2-hour spots, whether you can pay for 1 hour or 2 hour, up to 3 hours. I don't know if that's been discussed or, thought through.
Yeah.
But, so I was thinking of it, that the 15-minute ones would be free. For those people who did just want to zip into Dunkin' or wherever, versus paid. So I think I wonder how much this information would have changed if we were to have been
Yeah,
more clear on,
well, and remember, the key to this question was replacing,
right,
not adding,
Right.
right?
No,
Replacing,
we're
so
gonna add.
taking away
Yeah.
some of the longer term parking
Mhm.
with 15 minutes. So that's definitely gonna need some more review and discussion.
Yeah, I think it needs discussion because, again, one of the things that started to change my thinking on the short term was, and I brought this up before, but the short-term parking along Morse Court.
Mhm.
You always find a spot when you pull in there. If you wanna park along the curb,
Most of
9
the time.
times out of 10, you
Yeah.
pull in and there's a spot.
Mhm.
And it's like, oh, because people don't park there
That's turnover.
if they have, it's
Mhm.
turnover.
Mhm.
Yeah, and you know what? That's interesting. So I wonder, I don't know how long ago we changed from 90 minutes to 2 hours on Elm Street.
It was
That
not
was
that long.
probably,
2 years.
No,
no,
less than
years
that.
ago.
no,
Yeah, yeah,
I would
that's-
say about 2016, I think I
Oh, okay.
put that when I first started, yeah.
Wonder
So,
if there was
yeah.
more turnover at 90 minutes.
Well, there had to
There had
be
to be.
more turnover at
I'm
90
thinking of the
minutes
times how I
because
would, if
it
I
was 90
didn't
minutes.
find
It was
it
90
the
minutes,
first time
yeah,
around,
yeah.
then the second time
Yeah.
around, I'd find
Yeah.
a spot.
Yeah.
You know, I wonder if it had probably more spots.
South
I
Avenue
get
at one
that
point
too.
was an hour.
I mean, we have a lot more restaurants now, which is typically a longer time maybe to spend in town, but yeah, it's definitely something that needs to be.
Yep.
Really. talked about.
On that note, and maybe on like the education front, there was a really interesting post on New Canaan Moms maybe a week ago that was like, hey, everybody, could you not get in your car and like do like 10 minutes of texting because we want like the spots to turn over, and you see like people sitting there with their foot on the brake, so it looks like they're leaving or whatever. And I was like, yes, this. So I wonder if there's like a wider message, you know, only like, you know, some subset of the female population sees that, which is probably the majority of the people who do it, but that's an interesting education point in my mind also, because that to me is like so frustrating as I drive up and down Elm. I'm like, I see you just sitting there.
And a lot of see someone getting in, like you're so excited, you see.
Yeah.
someone
I'm
getting
like,
in,
yes, my
And you
spot,
wait,
yes.
and then you see them get in, they shut the door and they're just like this, and then you pull up alongside, like, are you leaving? And they're just, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the people behind you
Like
start
that.
honking and like, yeah, it's like, there's not a lot of good.
Good reminder though.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that question
Mhm.
definitely is gonna need more analysis and more discussion as we move forward. And then the last was more just, and again, this was kind of a loaded question. On thoughts about outdoor dining. Now, I can say in pulling this data, I could see, you can see who's filling it out. And a lot of the people that were against the outdoor dining, there were several retailers who have had a real issue with outdoor dining.
Right.
And were very vocal on the survey.
What's the issue? That it blocks their storefront? Like when you.
No, the outdoor dining, well, there is that, but it's more than it takes up parking spaces, and it's 8 parking spaces.
Parking.
So Chef Louise, but the bump out, see, there's gonna be less now because right now you'll see in front of the Playhouse, they're finishing those bump outs, which are not taking away any parking, but they are just where we lost those spaces because of the crosswalks, that whole crosswalk issue.
Mhm.
Now, at least they're just making it a bump out because now it's actually unsafe now because everyone pulls up on the hash and wait and just puts on their hazards or whatever, because they're picking something up. And then you really can't see. So now it's gonna be, they're finishing the bump outs. So
Why do
let-
we have 2 crosswalks there? Like if we had one, wouldn't we get a space or 2 back?
Doesn't that do with the size of
It
the
does,
street or something
yeah.
like
And
that?
and then
The
people
street,
jaywalk because they won't go to the crosswalk,
Yeah,
and people just dart out, and we have studied that, Tiger has studied that.
Hmm.
We really do have the mid-block crossing. That was one of the original thoughts we had, was to get rid of one of the crosswalks, but
Yeah, we can't.
yeah.
so, you know, it's funny, I first looked at this and I said, oh, 82% of the people said I enjoy outdoor dining. Because the first 2 are I enjoy it, but one didn't mind the loss of parking, some didn't think it should, but basically.
Which on the
82%.
first 2, which is,
Well,
they're both-
50% said they liked it and didn't mind the loss of parking, so half the people
that's
said
the
they
top
like it.
one.
Yep.
Okay. Got it.
The second was, I like it, but I don't think it should take up parking spaces, so that was 31%. So if you add the 2 together, 82% like outdoor dining, but 31% of that, you know, wished it didn't have to take up parking.
Mhm.
And then the comments ranged from sidewalks
Yeah.
are too crowded anyway, to it's unsanitary, to, I don't like the way it looks, although it looks so much better this year with the proper
Yeah, I
planters.
agree.
and that kind of thing. So that's another, and I think we've said that before. I think the recommendation is going to be next year that the, although this year was a bad example because October was so beautiful, but that the outdoor cafe permits will be shortened. It's right now, I think it's like April 1 through
Mhm.
October 31. I think they're gonna
Go
go
May.
May 1 to September 31.
Although on a day like today.
I know, I
know.
missed it today. I
I
wanted
know.
to meet a friend and we couldn't,
Yeah.
I know.
That's a
Yeah.
huge shame, I think. I mean, for just business and I mean, those spaces have been packed.
Packed. I know.
And then that brings people walking into the stores and walking around the
Totally.
town.
But the problem is, Marley, and I'm totally on board with that, the problem that the merchants see is that typically October's rainy, so they sit in their store, a customer's not coming in, and they see the parking spaces being held with seats that are empty, and they say, we gotta, so this year was not a good example because it was crazy busy all the time. But when they're not being used, and that's the same with April's never, it's not quite warm enough. So if we can slice off at least
Yeah, I
April.
agree with slicing.
So we're
off April.
doing May through September?
There's gonna be a recommendation, it
May
may go
1 for
longer, in September,
sure.
but May, nothing before May.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry, and remind me, how many spaces for the outdoor dining?
8,
8?
down by the patisserie.
That's a
and
lot.
Josie.
It's a lot.
Mhm. Yeah.
On Elm Street.
I guess, I just feel like there's a lot of parking. I feel like
It-
there is a lot of parking. People are just lazy, like, so.
Yeah.
You know what,
Yeah,
even,
we've always
but this is the
said that.
discussion we always have, even if people, you wanna say people are lazy, it's still dictating habits. And we still have to be mindful of the retailers, the
But that's why
retailers.
if Elm Street, if free was the number, one of the big things that people talked about, if we make all of that free.
Free.
Park
Mhm.
Street and Playhouse free. And now, the other thing we have to remember going forward is by the Playhouse, we're putting in a ramp. So anybody with a stroller, anything like that right
Right.
now, if they park up there or
They can't
mom
get
or
down,
somebody
yeah.
who can't get down.
Right.
And the deliveries, there's gonna be a ramp for the,
Switchback.
so that we don't have to have all the delivery trucks on Elm Street anymore, which will be a huge improvement.
They'll still be there.
They will, but we're gonna enforce
We'll
it.
hope, yeah, we'll try.
Because
to
we're gonna
look at all the
designate spaces.
So no more, sort of allowing the double parking.
If we can avoid it,
The
yes,
ones that
yes.
are the
I mean,
issues are the refrigerated ones.
Right.
The Baldor who comes in
Right.
and he has to, keep it running. And, it's not like the UPS guy that can just park once and be gone 4 hours and making all his
Mhm.
deliveries. That's the one that we have, that's the biggest offender.
So we have to try to move them into that.
So. We'll just have to-
Interesting.
But it definitely, there's no doubt it brings people to town, there's no doubt. But it's just, again, if it's taking up spaces, we're trying to minimize how many spaces we lose because of that.
I think that if we could encourage somehow people who dine in the restaurants to park up behind, just park not on Elm Street. Because another thing that the retailers do see is that in that lunch hour time,
It's getting chewed up.
their foot traffic
Mm.
stops. Because people are dining and then people who wanna come shop, the
Mhm.
spots are all
Spot.
taken with the diners, so.
Well, that's why,
Just
again,
the give and the
if
take,
it were
but-
free up top, that would encourage them
Mhm.
to park up top and leave Elm Street.
Yeah, or if Elm Street were shorter,
That's what I was. just
90
thinking.
minutes,
Right.
like I wouldn't park there if it were 90 minutes if I were going to have lunch, because we're usually an hour 45 to
Mhm.
2.
Well, that was one of the reasons we went to 2 hours, because we had complaints about people not having
Dining.
enough time
Right.
on the streets. And we
To
said,
dine and
To
shop.
dine and
Dine
shop.
and shop.
Right,
So,
so that was
right,
one
but,
of
you know,
the reasons
To that, I
we
would say you have to
suggested that
try
we-
stuff, and then you try it, and then you see, okay, so now we tried it, and we're running into this problem, so maybe it was better.
Mhm.
That, I think it's okay
Yeah.
to say that. I don't know that that's the right course of action. I think it's a good discussion to have.
Yeah,
If we could.
I mean, what if the majority of Elm Street was 1 hour? Like,
yeah, but that's hard too. for the
I'm
type
not
of
sure.
retail, Yeah.
Yeah, even the retails, I mean, if you're going into one of the stores and you're looking around for clothes or
Right.
baby
You wanna go to
gifts or
several
something.
stores.
You don't
Yeah.
want someone always thinking, I gotta
I
leave,
gotta
leave,
run
I gotta
right.
go."
for an hour.
Yeah, no, I think that the time frame is sort of one discussion, but I
Yeah.
think where Deanna has said, you know, that she wants to, you know, look at the possibility of charging for Elm Street, and that, the trade-off would be you get 100 and, what did we say, 177 spaces for free, right? And charging for 55
Right,
spaces.
right.
So it's a pretty good, you know, if you think about
Trade-off.
that. Yeah, it's a pretty good trade-off. And as I say, the key to that also has to be the access so that people can get down there easily to Elm Street.
But even if they are paying for spaces on Elm Street, there has to be a cutoff time, like you
Oh,
can
yeah.
only
Right.
pay for 2 hours.
Max.
Well, but you can only pay for
Max.
2 hours max, yeah, or whatever time it
Right,
is
the
set.
time is, yeah.
You know, because otherwise then you won't have the turnover if you just keep letting people just extend
Did
the
you see
time. like they
Westport
could
just, it was just in
In the
paper.
lots.
They just changed over all that parking behind on Westport.
I
They just
knew they were
converted it all.
doing it, but I
Oh,
didn't.
to what, paid?
I think they
I have to
converted it
look.
all to free.
It was free.
It
No,
was free, yeah.
Time.
Time, I think they
time.
started,
Yeah.
started
okay.
enforcing their parking where they never enforced parking
Right.
before in Westport. I think they started, I don't know where, but I know that they were implementing timed parking.
I wish we could experiment without like, you know. But it would be
Problem with an
interesting. to
experiment
s-
is it takes people a
Yeah, I know,
while.
exactly, exactly. But it would be interesting to see from a turnover standpoint and from encouraging people to park elsewhere if they're dining, what 90 minutes on Elm Street, going back to 90 minutes, what that would do.
So there is this, Placer AI, Placer Artificial Intelligence. So David Genovese, who, you know, is a big developer down in Darien, he gave Laura and I a little see into that. He can look at our street, he can say on Elm Street, he can look at our street, he can give you all that data. Like tomorrow, he could say, you have to buy my, it's very expensive. But
So he could model it and say what the turnover
he
would be.
did for Laura and I when we were down there one day. He said, right now on Elm Street, you have 43 people that have been there 12 minutes. You have 76 people that have been there 90 minutes. I mean, it was incredible.
How did he?
It's all based on cell phone data.
Scary world.
And they could say, you know, of the 45 that have been there for 12 minutes, they went from here to here. I mean, it's crazy.
Thanks.
How expensive is it?
It's like $100,000.
Yeah,
Oh, geez.
However, we might be able to borrow.
right.
We'll see.
Maybe we lease a little.
That's
more.
fascinating.
Or they
I mean,
said,
in a year, it'll be half that price.
right,
Yeah,
and
right.
actually, they've been trying to sell us, and they said they would come and do like a couple of examples for us, so maybe, you know, wet our whistle, we'll see. I mean, if there's any other uses that we can, because it's really interesting. I mean, it really.
What's the name of it?
is
Placer AI?
Placer AI, yeah. Laura and I were
That's
blown
pretty
away.
expensive.
Yeah, I mean, they use it in big cities, they use it in malls
Yeah.
when they're trying to build malls and where to put stores.
Is it like a one-time $100,000?
I don't know,
Or
Laura,
do you
Laura
have
actually
to
met with the guy.
every year do a contract or
Yeah,
you
probably.
pay for
I don't
the
know.
back office? so you
Laura,
can watch it?
she was. gonna talk.
I'm just reading the comments on the short-term ones. A lot of people seemed amenable if it were 30 minutes, like 30 minutes would be better. You know,
And a
maybe
lot of
instead of
enforcement
switching
now.
to 90, the discussion instead of switching to 90 is keep the 2 hours and then have a chunk of 30s. I would just want to see them
Have people pay
all
for the
together,
30s,
visible.
30s. You still have to pay for it, not free. But we'll just do it.
I would like to see the short term free because you think, okay, I'm running into the bookstore to grab a book they wrapped for me, or, you know, something like that, Whitney Shop, those gifty type places where you're
Yeah,
picking up something.
see, I think of the quick ones are the coffees and the things like that.
Mhm.
I mean, maybe you're running in, typically when you buy a gift, I mean, most times if you buy a gift, they wrap it and give it to you there. I mean, yes, you do go in to pick up things, for sure,
Yeah.
definitely the bookstore.
Yeah.
But I think the majority of quick ones are for coffees. I don't know.
I just don't know how you solve, like, we're talking about an hour's not enough to shop in town, so let's say it's an hour and a half, right? But that's all people are dining during the day. They're not having the 2-3 hour dinner, you know, at night when the stores are closed, it doesn't matter. So we're almost talking about like, I don't know how you time out people from parking on the street because the time to shop and the time to dine during the day is kind of the same thing. So I just don't know how you get those diners like off the street.
Unless
If
you
that's what the retail, if that's what the, if I'm hearing that that's what retailers want, right?
Yeah,
I think also that if you charge for short term, then you're gonna hurt, like a Chicken Joe's, cause then you're thinking, okay, now I'm adding $1 to my $10 sandwich I'm picking up, or $1 to my Dunkin' Donuts coffee or
but
$1 to
remember,
my
all
bottle of
this,
wine.
but this is all gonna be free. I mean, it's just a step down the
Free.
stairs.
Yeah.
Oh,
up top,
up,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I know,
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, that, we saw that
People like to
clearly,
park on Elm
the
Street.
cost. or-
Especially for the quick things, people like to park on the street. It's
Yeah.
just, I know it drives people crazy, but it is.
Yeah, or
just-
heavy, if it's
Yeah.
heavy or
Right,
big
right,
or
right.
something like that.
Yeah.
No,
I mean, when I go to my brother's shop, I'm
Mhm.
walking out with a heavy,
Mhm.
thing on, you don't wanna walk that far.
No.
you know.
No, you definitely wanna be close by
Yeah.
and getting something heavy, so. So anyway, we'll continue this conversation, Deanna will probably wanna join in, but just wanted to
I
get.
think this is a
from
good
you
first
all.
step, and it's a good, just to do it, and knowing that we could do it again and refine questions, or, we kinda have
Yeah.
something set in place now.
I also think people just like to be asked sometimes. what they think
Absolutely,
they're
but
doing.
yeah.
Yeah, right,
They
right, they
certainly
took the
did.
time, so that's so helpful.
Yeah, good.
I am reading for all, and you can get it on Audible, The High Cost of Free Parking. It's so interesting, and it's now obviously they're talking about, LA and things like that, but the principles in this book. Fascinating. I mean, I know I need to get a life, but I listen to it in the car. It's really interesting. And half the time I want to like.
So what is it saying?
It's saying
In a
that it's
nutshell.
all about turnover.
It's a lot of,
All
A
about, a lot of,
oh
I
my
know,
God,
but the bottom line is it's about turnover. You have to
to
keep.
keep them,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, and I
Yeah.
think that's the best
Oh.
for everybody. It's the best for people
Interesting.
looking for parking
Right.
spaces, and it's the best for retailers. They want the turnover. They want shoppers to come in, shop, go, come in.
But they
shop.
say, pay.
They're all
Oh.
paying.
Pay for premium, pay.
Every place,
No,
Like,
no,
every-
free, no, what we've been talking about.
free,
Free,
right.
further away,
Right, the
free,
premium,
because the premium, that's what creates the
Yeah.
turnover.
and that has been said, like, I've been hearing that since I started here 20 years ago. We give away
The best,
the
yeah.
best parking for free.
We're double incentivizing them to park on it,
Mhm.
because it's free
We've
and
always
close.
given away the best parking. Just the street parking for free.
Okay.
So that's the first pass anyway.
All right,
Good discussion.
great. So now we're going to discuss the recommendations to the Board of Selectmen and P and Z for the next fiscal.
Yeah,
Uh,
these are your recommendations that you're presenting or would like to present. So if there's anything you'd like to add to it, I kept it like I said.
Well, we have the survey in here again, so
Yeah, and I think the survey you were recommending the last time were to our commuters, which I would like to see as well, because I can't figure out the commuter parking anymore.
Right.
I really can't. I am moving down on our wait list for the lumberyard. People are taking it. I would say about half the people of a group of 30 would take it, maybe a little bit more. We still have availability. So people are taking their permits, but I'm not sure how they're being used.
mhm,
I'd be curious to see what, maybe we can get together sometime in a survey to see how are you using your permits, how many times
Yeah,
a week do
yeah.
you commute?
Right.
Because like I said, I'm still seeing the availability. We have a high day on Tuesdays, but there's still spaces. Tuesdays are our worst. I
right,
don't like to use worst. Tuesdays are our heaviest day.
Yeah.
In the lumberyard lot.
Mhm.
But we're still looking at about 20 spaces.
Hmm.
I mean, we used to, on our busy days, we would be adding on spaces. So I'd be curious. I asked people, it sounds like people are going back.
mhm.
If they want me back, I'm doing 4 days a week. Some people say 5 days a week.
I
Not
think
sure
that
who's
would,
using it.
that's ideal for a survey. That's
Yeah.
begging for a survey.
Yeah,
How
so that's why
many
we
times
can,
a week? What determines it? Summer, seasonal?
so that type of survey on here, maybe we can get something. Would be helpful to see.
Is there a way to attach like that in like a very condensed form to the renewal? Like, if you're doing it on paper, there's 3 questions, you could just like click, you know, if you're penciling it in, you pencil it in, or if it's online, hey, here's 3 things before you hit the pay button, right?
Be something
Yeah, the
definitely look
online
into,
renewal.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
But if you
or,
have them captive there, those are the people who are buying the permits, right? Make it so quick and easy, but then you capture almost everybody, hopefully, right?
so yeah, if there's anything else you'd like me to add, that would be great,
Well, you are looking at a new vendor this year,
correct,
Right.
yes,
because.
Right, that was an issue.
Yeah,
Yeah.
big issue.
yeah, so,
And
that's what-
possible updated equipment. If we do add anything on Elm Street, right? we
Yes,
have to
well,
add
that,
iron
yes,
lights,
iron mites, if that's what you're, yes, yes,
If
so-
it goes that route.
we would have to add iron mites. Or our pay machines to Elm Street. And yes, I am looking at a new software company. I've done several, and, narrowing it down, but I just want to take a look. One more and then I will present it to everybody on what I feel would be best for our usage,
Mhm.
you know, in the town. So,
Every time I drive by the lumberyard lot these days, it seems so much busier to me than it has been.
does it really?
Yeah, but
It's the time of
It-
year,
it can-
you know, I mean, it's for.
You're going
fall,
to see
fourth
us,
quarter.
we're going
Yeah.
into our holidays.
Yeah,
and
Yeah,
you're
Fridays
seeing-
are dead.
Yeah.
Fridays
Fridays
are
are
dead,
dead.
Mondays are dead, again, our 3 heaviest days, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays.
Right.
But I'm having them keep an eye on it, Tuesdays, least amount of spots, Wednesdays, you get a little bit more, Thursdays more, and then Friday. It's game for anybody.
Yeah.
You know, so. I mean,
I think we should also add to the improved signage that like the signs of the lumberyard lot are like, they're kind of like, there's like tape over them and like they look really old and they're small and like hard to see.
Okay.
And some people were confused about about like parking there. I like talked to some like, I don't know, people from out of town who were just looking for parking. And they were at the lumberyard lot, and I was like, they were like, "Oh, can we park here?" And I was like, "You need a permit, or call Stacy and see if you can get a day pass."
yeah, the day pass.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay,
What I thought was interesting in all these others was only one person in all of these others mentioned anything about boxcar.
yeah, I saw that.
There's
oh,
one boxcar mentioned. I was surprised. I wonder if that's
Well, maybe
because St. A's is offline. Is St. A's boxcar offline right now?
No,
Was it work? No,
not that
oh, no,
side
no,
lot, that's
No,
not
not
the
where
side
Maple,
lot. I don't know
yeah,
if they were
yeah,
using
yeah,
that.
because of the
I
construction.
think
Yeah.
they're still using.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, there's still.
Well, there isn't the demand because people aren't going in, you know, so.
They look pretty full, because I go there during the day, and so people are either using them or just parking there, but
Yeah, wait.
all the boxcar
They're supposed to
spots
be,
look pretty full.
Do you
they're
think
supposed
they're-
to be maintaining it
Who's
themselves. so I'm not
patrolling
sure.
those? Do,
St. A's.
okay, because people might just be parking there for free and not.
Yeah.
Well, some
Yeah.
people said that in the survey, that they park in St. A's to like not pay.
Oh, they said a lot of St. A's, right? There are
Right.
boxcar spaces and St. A's spaces.
Unfortunately,
Yeah.
we've tried to, we can't ticket in that lot, so St. A's has to oversee the lot, and they.
And it's a
have to
revenue
go through
producer for
For them,
St. A's.
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't
anything
have
else
as
that
far
we
as, so
wanna
are we
add?
good to add it this
The
way?
EVs, okay, and then so are you gonna add then the new software and the iron mics into this?
It depends on the budget
Recommendations.
discussions.
Yeah, should I?
When you meet with Deanna and figure out where for, you know, what she's
Okay.
thinking.
Okay, if not, then we'll just submit it as is,
Right.
okay.
Do we have any other recommendations, from the commission to add to this list?
You will, on the EVs, the board of selectmen did approve on Monday that the 2 EV chargers back here behind town hall will be available. Right now, they're supposed to just be for town vehicles, EV town vehicles. However, a lot of people go in there and charge for free anyway when they're not on them.
Mhm.
So we are now gonna charge using the Amp Up company that I think Steve, Kevin, your father is familiar with, the Y uses it, I think you guys use it, but, so it'll be per
Yeah.
kilowatt hour plus the equivalent of the
I
$1.25
see.
for parking
Mhm.
fee. So it's just two more places that people can charge, but we're not giving it away anymore. We could cover the cost.
And what is slated to be added to Morse Court? Anything or just what's there?
But that one is
That's
free
free,
from everyone.
yeah,
Okay.
nothing changing in there. Yeah, and that's free from Eversource, we're not charging. We charge for the spot,
Mhm.
but not the.
All right.
So I think
I
this
think
one
we're
needs a
good.
motion, right? To submit, like a motion to submit. The,
Yeah, I mean, I think what you should do, since it might change, is maybe take a motion
Okay.
to submit this one. And if something gets added, you can just send it out to everyone and ask them to vote, just to get back to
Okay.
you that they're okay with if anything
with the
gets added.
additions,
Right.
Okay.
So I think you
Okay.
should vote as this one as it currently
As
stands.
is.
So do we have a motion to submit these recommendations to the Board of Selectmen and P and Z?
I'll make a motion to submit.
Katie, second? Marley? All in favor?
Motion to adjourn.
Well, we got a report.
Oh, your report, sorry.
Stacy has to give a report.
Yeah, I really, we
You don't have
kind of discussed
much to
everything, I
report.
don't have, much to report, other than I made the mention of looking at, several different companies, and once I find one that I think will work best for us, I will bring it to everyone.
Wonderful.
And I asked Stacy why she wasn't getting a lot of appeals, and she
You're
said,
right.
people don't wanna be in the paper.
Yeah, they don't wanna be in the paper.
When they
It's pretty
report it.
Straightforward and.
I asked that last month. I was
Yeah.
are we communicating better? Are we educating people better? Are people afraid?
And we are doing that as well. We're trying, we're,
For sure, yeah.
yes, we are, but,
They could get pretty interesting, those appeals,
Yeah.
they were kind of fun.
Yeah.
I miss them. Yeah.
Well, last time we had an appeal,
oh
because
my gosh,
it's like,
it was too long ago, I looked, maybe about
it was
three.
Yeah,
well,
parked here in
yeah,
October.
yeah,
Marley, right?
yeah, so about
That
2
was
or 3 meetings ago, something like that.
But they used to have like four
Oh my
every
God,
meeting.
Yeah.
Well, I've
More than
only,
that,
I'm
oh
new
my-
here, I think I've only done
Yeah.
2 appeals.
All right, if you
Yeah.
want, we'll get it, we'll get out there to get some interesting, stories
Is the
here.
number of parking tickets being issued the same?
That's the.
right,
important
that's the
question.
question, yeah.
We have been more of an educator,
Yes.
okay, we have
Kind
been
of
trying
and gentler.
kinder and gentler, we, when we have to, we definitely do, but if we can try to educate someone on how to park, where to park, we do that first. I mean, it doesn't always work, so somebody will get ticketed, but if we have the option to do that, I think it makes life easier for everybody. And I think makes people happier coming into town first than slammed with a parking ticket right off the bat.
And
Again,
these
if we
guys
can do
know,
it.
if it's someone who's constantly getting a ticket versus somebody they've never seen before, who just didn't
Yeah.
understand.
We just, educating people, and a lot of people are very grateful to be educated, And then there are
Right.
people that are not,
They'll
and
happily take.
we won't go there
the
with that
over
one.
parking ticket.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
All right, we need
Very
to
good.
adjourn.
A motion to adjourn,
Motion to adjourn.
Katie,
Katie,
Marley,
Arlene?
all in favor?
Aye.
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 All right.
Thanks,
Until
guys.
next month.
Thanks,
So
thank
it
you all
is
so
now, what, 8:57?
Hello.
I mean,
That's
7:57, I did this watch.
You gotta go see the man at
Yeah.
the
train
train
station.
station.
Bye, guys.
All right, good night.
Okay.